What's going on, y'all? Nightmare Baller One, Nightmare Comics, whatever you feel comfortable calling me, Markeem to most people, to my loved ones. um, I was gonna come on here and do a little G1 thingamabob, but everything I feel, I'm gonna talk about on the show because there's a couple things that I want people to tell the whole story about this tournament. I feel like it's obvious to talk about the obvious thing, and I'm going to. Oh, I'm going to. But the other stuff, like the non obvious thing, I think people are just gonna skim over, and I think that's bullshit. But whatever. Um, because I have a range of emotions, and we'll get into it. But I wanted to get on here and talk about a few random geek things that I not even geek things, just a few random things that I have experienced that I've done since the last time you talked to me. The plan for this extra Death Stranding 2 review. I'm gonna keep it as brief as I can. Um, I wanted to review the new Naked Gun movie, Weapons. Not even review, just talk about them a bit, and also this bad boy. Let's start with this bad boy because this won't take long. This is the Qanba Obsidian 2. Qanba Obsidian 2. I actually bought this at Evo. If you know the story, I talked about it in the last extra. Stop doing that. I forgot it. And I had to rush, but luckily I had a homie of mine get this to me. So awesome. This is the greatest stick I've ever laid hands on, period. It is not the most premium one. The most premium one that I ever touched in my life is probably the Hori VLX, which is like one of those sticks that are pulled straight from an arcade canvas in Japan. That is the most premium thing I've ever laid my hands on. But this is perfect for me because if I travel, this is a perfect weight. You throw it in a bag. I'm getting a bag for it because the bags I got don't fit this. But I'm getting a bag for it. This goes in a bag perfectly. It fits on my lap perfectly because I'm fat. All silver buttons, all of them. It even has this cool feature. This bat top came with the stick, and it comes with a ball top attached, but it comes with a bat top. So you have the option to just switch from a bat top to a ball top, and it's entirely up to you if you want to do that. You can do that anyway, but it's rare that it comes with the stick. That's cool. Another thing that I love that's cool with this that the last Obsidian did not have. I had a friend that had that. I don't have that. The wire is, I'm not pulling it out, but the wire is actually in here. If you unscrew it, you can unravel it, plug it in, and then when you win or lose, or you play your set or whatever, you can unplug the cord and just put it back in there and then screw this back on. This is my go-to now. This is the one. This is the one. My only issue, if I had one, it's not huge, but the only somewhat of a problem I have with it is that the stick and the buttons are like regulation, like close together. And now, thanks to the Titan, I'm kind of like, which I think is the most comfortable way to play. The stick is further away from the buttons, and like I'm just used to that now because I've been playing with the Titan a lot, and just in general, like at home I play with the Titan. When I'm at like a tournament or something, I play with my Dragon, or I play with what's called it, the Nikon that I got or something like that. The Dragon feels so good, but it's so cumbersome and it's so big and it's so heavy that half the time I don't even want to bring it out. Like to do this with the Dragon is like a hassle in itself. You know what I mean? But other thing I don't like is this thing here is a fingerprint magnet. If you can't tell, fingerprint. I've only had it since Saturday, right? I've been playing with it nonstop. Don't get me wrong, but covered in fingerprints, bro. That's the only other issue. But yeah, and the great thing about it is that when this thing retailed, it was $300 when it first was released, right? And the cool thing is that now it is on sale all the time. So at Evo, they had these things for $178, right? Like Qanba was selling this for $178. And a lot of times when you hop online, it's anywhere from like, I've seen it as low as $165 on eBay, brand new by the way. And I've seen it like, I think now it's on Amazon for like $200, like $199. So not bad if you want to. If you honestly, if you like fighting games and you wanted to switch to something like an arcade stick, and you don't mind paying a little bit extra to get something good. Like if you're looking at something in like the 150 range, get $50 more and get this thing here. Best buttons you can get. These Samuel buttons. Samuel JLF lever. To me, best bang for your buck in the entire like anything you can get for a PS5. Honestly, I don't know if they have an Xbox version of this, but it works on PC as well. Get this bad boy here. The Nacon it does a lot of the things this does. The Nacon pops open from the top though. But I've never seen it for as low as this thing is. So to me, I feel like you should just go ahead and get this if you don't mind spending the extra money. If you want to be like, cheap and spend something around $50, we can talk about other options. But as far as like, hey, I don't mind spending like $150 or $200. This is the one. This is the one. And I feel like this is a good first fight stick, to be honest with you. Because in my opinion, there's two ways to go about it. First way is you make the conscious decision that you want to first. There's two ways to go about it. Let's say you were in an arcade, or just anybody that you played with a fight stick. You're like, ooh, this is a lot of fun. I want to learn this thing, right? Then I feel like, okay, well, you're interested, you're invested in some sort of way. Get this. If you ever seen somebody use like a fight stick and you're like, hey, I want to try it, then go the cheaper route. But if you know that you want to invest and try and get good with one of these things, maybe you grew up in the arcade and you want to replicate that feeling that you used to get in the arcade. This is the one. This is the one. This right here. Qanba Obsidian 2. Best fight stick on the market. Moving on. Let's talk about the movies I saw. So, me and my lady, it was her birthday yesterday. We did a double feature. We went to go see The Naked Gun as well as Weapons. And went today because we couldn't go yesterday. Because she went with her buddies to see Freakier Friday, which she really liked because she loves that movie. I don't really have the affinity for the original, well, not the original, but for the one from the late 2000s. I don't have the affinity for that like she does. So, that's that. I'll leave. If she ever wants to talk about that on here, she's more than welcome. But I don't have the affinity for that like she did, so I opted out, honestly. The Naked Gun. Let's start with that. If you don't know, The Naked Gun is I wouldn't even call it a reboot because it's a sequel. It's a sequel to The Naked Gun, Files from the Police Squad, starring Leslie Nielsen, one of the greatest parody movies of all time. And also the TV show, Police Squad. I think is fantastic. I think it's the spirit of that movie lives well in this new one. It is so absurd. The jokes come at you and they hit you and they hit you. A mile a minute, so many, just back to back to back. Things from little interactions between characters, just saying like just random, just like some of the best one-liners, that if you're not quick enough, you wouldn't catch them. There are moments where not every joke lands, and it was like that in the original movie. But there are enough here that like you're gonna take something and it's just gonna get you, man. And like there is a cameo towards the end of this movie that had me laughing for like almost 5 minutes. It's so well timed, so out of nowhere. I was like, what the fuck? But it had me laughing after the movie was over. I was in tears laughing at that shit. There are so many scenes like that with so many moments where like, this reminds me of the old films. And Liam Neeson is fantastic in this. Like the deadpan is so great. It's even like juvenile like toilet humor. There's a bathroom joke that's in this movie that had me dying. I was like, bro, what am I like in the 8th grade? Like had me just in tears laughing, bro. The plot is basically non-existent. There's no memorable scene like the baseball scene in the original. That's what kind of holds it back to me from being like next level because The Naked Gun is one of my favorite movies, period. It's one of my favorite movies, period. I fucking love that movie, right? There's a part in that movie where my favorite joke in the whole movie is the part where he's haggling the guy with the money, and like they're basically they're like it's not even a big like comedy set piece, right? It's just like they're haggling, like he's haggling the guy with like to get information out of him, right? And he's flashing the money to him, and it gets more and more absurd because now the guy's like trying to get information out of him, and he's flashing said money. that it's hilarious, man. It's like that's my favorite joke. Like sometimes I think about that and I just laugh. You know what I mean? And but like I said, like and that movie has moments like that, but there's nothing as memorable as like the shit with the Queen, Reggie Jackson, all that stuff, and there's nothing as memorable, just nothing. So to me, that kind of holds it back from being like something really, really special. But a whole lot of fun, great time at the theater, man. Like great time at the theater. Pam Anderson's hilarious in this. Hilarious in this fucking movie. There's a part where they're at this jazz club, and like, man, when I'm telling you, I was dying. Like, bro, it's so funny, man. It's so fun. So many jokes hit you in the face all at once. It's exactly what I wanted. It's exact. If y'all hear a baby crying, that's my nephew. But yeah, man. So just yeah, check it out. 100%. Well worth your time. I don't want to spend too much time on that because it's really not much to talk about. If you like parody movies, if you like the absurdness of the original Naked Gun, I find it really hard that you won't dig that movie. I find it very hard that you won't at least get something out of that movie. I fucking loved it. There was a part where like I was laughing for like 15 minutes. And I told my lady, I was like, I don't think I'm gonna make it through this. My stomach is hurting. I was laughing so much and so hard at that movie. I kind of want to go back and watch the original tonight, which I might do after we record, to be honest. Also, we saw Weapons, and I didn't know this movie was so polarizing. I thought it was just like this critically acclaimed film that everybody loved, but now I see like real horror, like real super duper like horror snobs. Some, I won't say snobs, but like horror fans don't like this movie. And on the one hand, I get it, but on the other hand, I don't. I'll explain. So one thing about this movie that I've seen some people complain about, shout out to my dog Taylor in the Discord because he brought up a good point, is the pacing. And like the movie is broken up into sections where they decide they want to focus on a character and they give that character backstory to where they somehow play into the finale. Everything plays into the finale, right? So each one of these parts, this movie is broken up into parts, and each part is represented by a character's name or a character. And it's pretty much what they go through to get to the role they play in the last act, into the finale of the movie. That's pretty much what it is. With the exception of one character. One character is not so much, but like, or well, I can't even say that. A couple characters not so much, but it's how they play into like the overall narrative, right? I'll say that. And some of them are really great. Like I think the first act is like the first story, fantastic. I think the last story, fantastic, right? But like some of the other ones, like I get like not adding as much as it does to the overall narrative as like that first one and that last one, right? So, because the last one is, I'm fuck it, spoilers. Like the first one is about, like, what the plot of the movie is that there is a teacher that teaches a class, and 17 kids in that class she teaches all go missing. They all blame the teacher because no other kids in the school. There's one kid left in the classroom, right? No other kids at the school. Nobody else has gone missing except these 17 kids in this teacher's class. So obviously it's suspicious. The first part is about what this teacher is going through because she's just as affected as all of the parents. I wouldn't say just as much because they lost their kids, but she's really affected too because the kids in her class who she's supposed to protect are all missing. You know what I mean? And it's been affecting her personality, her psyche. She's being harassed by the parents. It all makes sense. You know what I mean? Because they're like, hey, what's so different? What were you doing in that classroom for these kids to go missing? Right? So the first story follows her. And then the second story, I might be having them out of order, but stay with me. The second story follows one of the parents of one of the kids that was taken. And then it's like his fucking own investigation and him not trusting that teacher and all this other stuff. And then another part of the story another part follows the principal of the school and like what happened to him, because there's a part in the movie where he's just fucking nuts and nobody knows why, and it kind of gives you an idea as to why. And then there's another part that follows this guy that the teacher had a affair with, and because the guy's married and they meet up at a bar, they get drunk and they have an affair, and there's a part that follows him, and then there's this junkie and like this thief and this drug addict that it follows too, that the cop she had an affair with had an interaction with. And then there is another part of the movie where it's perspective of the boy, the last boy that did not, get abducted, right? And they all add their own things to varying degrees, right? I think the thing that some people have issues with is that not all of the parts are created equal. And they're not short either. Some of them are very long. So I understand it from that aspect. I get it from that aspect. However, some of the moments in that movie, fucking fantastic. So I let a lot of the shit go, because I'll tell you this, I think it's great. I was like kind of like a lot of people I've seen that like didn't like it as much. Like when I first saw it, like if I had to give it like a star rating, like before it got to like the climax, right? I was like 3.25, 3.5 stars out of 5. You know what I mean? I was like, this is good. Bit overhyped. This is good. But man, that ending. Listen. I was in a theater full of black people, and when I tell you, I've never seen so many people cheer, so many people get excited, so many people yell, holler, scream, all that stuff. That was like a rock concert. Motherfuckers was losing their mind for that, and saying I was too. I was like, this is crazy. It's so well done. So the journey to find out what has happened to the children, it's intriguing until you kind of get the understanding about what's going on. Like, you might not know all the details, but when you finally like realize what's going on, like my dog Taylor says, and I get his point. He was like, well, let's just get to it. Let's get to how we're gonna wrap this up, right? I get that, but to me it was so well acted, and all of the characters like played off each other well, and I enjoyed watching all these people, that it didn't really bother me as much as I'm sure, it did people like him and things like that. But I get why it did. You know what I mean? I totally get why it did. But I don't necessarily want to ruin that. I don't want to ruin much. I'll just say that I get people's gripes. I get people's complaints. But I definitely think everyone should see it. Like, I would recommend it because I think it's a really fun time at the theater. And I think it has an ending, all-time great ending. Probably my favorite moment ever in a movie theater. but then honestly, the way it wraps everything up, you might see something like that coming, but not the way it plays out. There's no way anyone can see, like, and it works so well, but I don't like Dave. So all right, you know what? I'm not gonna spoil it because I'm talking about other shit in here, and I want people to stay. But definitely go see that. Not a whole lot of spoilers, not much, just elements of the plot. But go see it. All right, go see it. All right. Death Stranding 2, and then I'm gonna get up out of here because I got a lot of shit to talk about tonight. Because like Mad Men, they want to record, and even though pro wrestling, to me, cool things are happening, but a lot of places I care about, one in particular, has me concerned, and we will talk about that tonight. Death Stranding 2. So, I finished it on Saturday, I believe. Saturday, yeah. I've been playing through it as much as I could since it was released, basically. And, Saturday I finally rolled credits on it because I got a chance to sit down and really plow through it. Because one thing I like to do with that, with especially the first one, is do as many deliveries as I can, man. If you don't know, Death Stranding, the first one and the second one, is about a man named Sam Porter Bridges, played by Norman Reedus. Very, very well, by the way. and he is a porter, which is basically a delivery man, and his job is to deliver packages to different parts of whatever continent he's on. In the first one, it was North America, pretty much it was America, and in the second one, or excuse me, country, my bad. In the first one was America, in the second one it is Mexico and Australia. So his whole thing is deliver packages to these places after this post-apocalyptic event happened known as the Death Stranding, that pretty much destroyed all, a lot of human life. A lot of technology was, gone and destroyed, and people are scared to go outside because now we have these things which are basically ghosts. I don't want to get into what BTs are, but they're called beach things. What happens is when people die in this universe, they go to this thing called a beach, where it's almost like limbo. You know what I mean? But there are some people that, a lot of people that when they die, they come back as what's known as a beach thing, a thing that is between the world and their beach. So they come back as like these ghosts, and people are scared to go outside because if you encounter these beach things and you are attacked by these beach things and you are taken by one of these beach things, you trigger what is known as a void out. And essentially it is basically like a nuclear warhead going off where it will kill like everyone in like a 2-mile radius. You know what I mean? So people are scared to travel and go out and do anything because of these void outs, right? So Sam's whole job is to navigate through the weather, which, there's a lot of rain, and rain, as a result of the Death Stranding, is now known as timefall, where it rains and something in the atmosphere, I can't remember what it's called, it triggers an event called timefall, where things touch the rain and they age. You know what I mean? So he has to navigate that, plus he has to navigate the terrain in general, and these beach things, and these enemy camps of people with no interest in connecting everyone, just hoarding goods. So he has to encounter those people too. and while doing that, as he delivers things, there's this thing known as the Cairo network, where it's almost like basically the internet. That's what I the best way to look at it is the internet, where he connects different people to this Cairo network, and they're all connected where they can send information easier. They don't have to necessarily deliver everything. If they got simple information, they can send simple information. Everything is connected. They all can use the same radio waves and things like that. Some people are hesitant about joining it because they don't necessarily trust it. It's something that like the United Cities of America, which is the new United States, set up in the first game, right? So some people are hesitant in using it because, hey, I don't trust the government. Or, hey, I'm from Mexico or I'm from Australia. Why should I trust these people? Things like that. You know what I mean? But when people connect, it's easier for everybody. So his whole thing is he's delivering these packages. He's connecting to different people. While you learn backstory about his life, about his upbringing, and about basically how he came to be in the first game. The first game is a whole origin story about him. And I know if you probably... I'm trying to explain this because it's so Hideo Kojima that it's hard to make it normal without actually experiencing it. Because one thing about Death Stranding is that Death Stranding 1, Death Stranding 2, very fucking divisive games. Because essentially the gameplay loop is delivering packages from point A to point B, minus certain enemy encounters, certain set pieces, boss fights. But most of the game, 90% of the game, you are delivering, 80% of the game, you are delivering packages from point A to point B. So it did not work for everyone. And I understand, because another 10% of the game, you know what? 65% of the game is delivering packages from point A to point B. And then you got like 20% that is boss fights, cutscenes. And then the rest of that are boss fights. You know what I mean? So I get why it didn't necessarily work for everyone. So explaining the plot is hard for people that didn't necessarily experience it, because it's one of those things that's best left experienced. You know what I mean? Which a lot of people say about Hideo Kojima games, but it's true. You know what I mean? So the first game is about Norman Reedus' character Sam and how he came to be. The second game is more so about it's about him to an extent, but it's more so about his daughter, known as Lou, the little baby that I don't know if you've probably seen the promotional material. There is a baby that Sam carries around in the first game that is in this pod. It's known as a BB. And the thing about those babies is that those babies help people detect things, detect the BTs, the beach things, because something about them being infants and something I can't remember exactly. Not important, but just know it helps them detect the beach things. So Sam in the first game took one and he kept it the whole time. Right, kept it the whole time. It became attached to it to the point where they were going to take this baby. There was one point this baby was going to die, and then he took it out the pod and he raised it, and he left the fucking the UCA, the company he was working for, a company known as Bridges, and he lived off the grid for years and years. And from the time period, it was about 4 years, I think, from the time period between the first game and the second game. He just lived off the grid. This game is about the past and all that stuff of that character, of the baby. You know what I mean? And then you find out where she came from. You know, her parentage, who her parents are. You find out what can happen to people who stay too long on the other side, on the beach. That's what it's called, on Death Stranding 2, on the beach. And I think in every way that game is better than the first game. I've seen people go, because I think the first game, legit, I think you can make the argument it's not a very good game with a really good story if you get into it, right? I think this one is a good game with a phenomenal story. That's what I think. Because if you got into the lore, you got into the characters, and you got into like the terminology of the first game, right? And you understood what was being presented to you. You understood the significance of how they tell the story and what these characters mean and what they represent, right? If you understood it, then, and it's not, again, that shit is not for everybody, but this game will hit you so much harder because some of the revelations in this game, so great. So, because I can really talk about this game for like 2 hours, and I won't do that because I gotta record an extra, right? But I really want to talk about the acting, right? The acting in this game from everybody, fantastic. I don't know the dude's name, but I'm about to look him up real quick. Hold on. The acting from a man by the name of Luca Marinelli. I was not very familiar with the guy. I feel like I saw him before this game, but I was not very familiar with him. But the acting from him especially. And Troy Baker as Higgs, who's the main antagonist, and I'll get to him. I feel like if those two aren't nominated for best performance in a game at the Game Awards, we've done something wrong. And I feel like if Luca Marinelli, homeboy that plays a character named Neil Vana, that's his character's name, if he doesn't win, I'm going to be kind of disappointed. Troy Baker winning, I'll be fine with that too, but I really want him to win. Because one problem with this game, right? Well, one problem with Hideo Kojima in general is that he always struggles with writing dialogue, right? Everyone kind of talks like people that aren't real. They don't talk like real people. They kind of say things that are kind of robotic. It's a character that has to explain everything they're thinking instead of just letting the acting just kind of take over, and you understand the message that's being conveyed to you, right? Every scene with Neo almost feels like, for the first time ever in a Kojima game, almost feels like they let the actor act. Because there is a shot at the end of this game, I cannot stop thinking about it, where the big reveal that everyone figured out, by the way, there's a twist in the game, right? But like everyone figured out the twist, you know what I mean? If you got a brain, the twist is pretty easy to figure out. But the why and like getting to like why the twist is the twist, that is the actual reveal. And there's a part where he says, he doesn't say a word, nothing like that. You just see his eyes and his expression, and I got chills. I was like, bro, I cannot stop thinking about that sequence. That sequence, the music, everything about that may be my favorite moment in all of video games. I really mean that. Like that moment is so great. It's so great. It's so fantastic, man. I think that story is fantastic. I think that the reveals itself in it, although some of them are very obvious, they're all very impactful. Higgs, man, Higgs. Troy Baker is Higgs in the first game. He was the villain in the first game. Don't worry about how if you play the first game. I don't want to ruin too much because I want people to actually play these games if you haven't. But don't worry about how. But like if he survives the events of the first game, right? And then don't worry about kind of. Don't worry about how, but he's back. He's back. And in this game, he's just allowed to go crazy. They basically tell him, "You just be the Joker," and he's essentially the Joker. You know what I mean? He shows up and like chaos just happens. He does the good version of fourth wall breaking. It's all great. And he's just allowed to have fun and go loose. And he's given a monologue towards the end of the game that is also well acted. The actors truly carry this game. Because like the story, again, to me is the strongest thing in the game. And they truly carry that story. Like Hideo Kojima has dialogue all through this game to make your eyes roll. But these actors do a good job of making you feel like I don't really care about his bad dialogue. but again, the scenes with Neil and another character could feel like they come from a completely different game because they're just allowed to act. You know what I mean? That guy, I'm telling y'all, that guy Luca Marinelli, that dude, man, that dude. If I see him in something now, I'm gonna check it out, bro. He is great. Does not begin to express how good I felt he was in this game because he barely says anything. Most of his acting is done by his facial expressions. It's the most realistic acting performance for the most ridiculous plot I have ever seen. like that. Tell you that shot at the end. Even if you don't play the game, just look up all Neil Vana scenes. Just look that up because he's great and he's like a recurring boss throughout the game too. And all those boss fights completely memorable and awesome. But yeah, the actual gameplay loop has been improved on a bunch too because the game doesn't make you carry packages as much as you could. I know a lot of people, they're upset that they took away that element from it, but I think that element was a roadblock for people to get to all the really cool stuff in Death Stranding. The only thing I feel like that they could have kept in were more of the BT encounters because that gave that game a air of like creepiness that like is just not present in the second game. But to me, it's a compromise I'm willing to make just because I was able to get more of the story. You know what I mean? Digest more of the story. And some of those encounters, those set pieces, so well done, man. So I was able to get more of that stuff. And like the deliveries are the deliveries. To me, the deliveries are, and the crazy part, you can actually bypass a lot of the stuff they add in that game and just play it like the first game. So like I've seen people complain about like, man, like now you're just driving your off-road vehicle everywhere. You could play like that. You could. Or you could just play it like you played Death Stranding 1. Make the trek on your feet. You know what I mean? I've seen people say, now you can actually kill the BTs and it's not as fun. You don't have to kill the BTs. You can do all those encounters like you did in the first game. What this game gives you that the first game didn't give you is freedom. So if you wanted to play Death Stranding 2 the same way you played Death Stranding 1, you can do that. You know what I mean? I think it's one of the best games of the year. I also think from a grand perspective, this has been a phenomenal year for video games, bro. And if anybody tells you otherwise, they're just not playing enough games, bro. Because this is a year where like there's literally something for everybody. There's so many great games that have come out. Claire Expedition 33. I have not played it. Everybody tells me it's one of the best games of the year. I have not played it. I don't even know. What's it called? City of the Wolves is one of the best fighting games of the year. Period. You know what I mean? The Capcom, what's it called? The packs both came out this year, I think. Did the Marvel pack come out last year? It doesn't matter. The second volume of the Fighting Jam came out this year. What else we got this year, man? Donkey Kong Bonanza. By the way, got my girlfriend a Nintendo Switch too. Donkey Kong Bonanza, one of the best games of the year. One of the absolute best games of the year. The Midnight Walk is one of the best puzzle games I've ever played. It's a puzzle game, you know what I mean? So many great games this year. Like, there's a ton. First Berserker Kazan, one of the best Souls games not made by FromSoft ever made. there have been a ton of them. Like, not just like a little bit here and there. No, man. There have been a ton of great games this year. One of the best years for gaming, like, ever. And anybody that tells you otherwise, they really haven't played them up. They really haven't played much. Or maybe they just don't like this hobby anymore. Maybe they just don't like this hobby anymore. And that's fine too. But there is so much variety, so much great stuff, and literally something for everybody. Gaming is in a good place right now. That's a good place to end it. Play Death Stranding 2. See Naked Gun. See Weapons. I'll talk about the G1 and y'all know how I feel tonight. But this is Nightmare Baller 1. I'll see y'all in about 2 hours.